Mother's Day, I never thought I would be preaching on Mother's Day. Mother's Day is not a good day for me. So if I cry, then just, ignore me and bear with me. Mother's Day was never a day for me. It was always for my mum. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Compose. Right, Psalm 13. And I've taken this from the Passion Translation, which is one of those when I think you can start to get far removed from how the Bible was originally written. So I choose carefully when sort of looking at these new translations, but I really like this verse. So Psalm 13. I'm hurting, Lord. Will you forget me forever? How much longer, Lord? Will you look the other way when I'm in need? How much longer must I cling to this constant grief? I've endured this shaking of my soul. So how much longer will my enemy have the upper hand? It's been long enough. Take a good look at me, God, and answer me. Breathe your life into my spirit. Bring light to my eyes in this pitch-black darkness, or I will sleep the sleep of death. Do not let my enemy proclaim I've prevailed over him, for all my adversaries will celebrate when I fall. Lord, I have always trusted in your kindness, so answer me. I will yet celebrate with passion and joy when your salvation lifts me up. I will sing my song of joy to you, the Most High, for in all of this you have strengthened my soul. My enemies say that I have no saviour, but I know that I have one in you. And I want to talk about being alone today, because have you ever felt truly, truly alone? And loneliness is a funny thing, isn't it? Because you can be in a room full of people and feel alone. And yet you can be on your own and not feel alone. So, yes, sometimes it's about not being with the people that care and love for you. But it's not always about that. And even though you believe that Jesus is your saviour, have you ever wondered where God is in a situation that you're going through? And you're not alone in feeling this way, because as I've just read to you, David cried out to God, God, where are you? Why have you left me alone? Will you forget me forever? How much longer, Lord? Will you look the other way when I need you, Lord? So what is the underlying emotion of feeling alone? And it could be many things, but I think that generally the major reason is fear. And all of us feel it. And there's no shame in feeling fear. God gave us fear for a purpose. It's what keeps us safe. If we didn't have fear, we'd be doing all sorts of crazy things. I've got friends who just have no fear, and how they're still with us today, I shall never know. But fear often comes to us when we're in a situation that is completely out of our comfort zone, or it's beyond what we believe, well, it is beyond our natural ability. It's not what we believe, it is beyond our natural ability. We have no way to cope, so we often fall back on what we've always known, or what we've always done, and what we've learnt from previous situations. And we try to engineer a solution, our solution. But sometimes God makes us face those situations. He makes us face those fears. And we're unable to find a solution, because some situations have no solution, do they? It doesn't matter how hard you try, there is no solution. And we can't do it in our own strength. And when this happens, people will often lash out. And it's quite a common, families that I've worked with, they'll lash out at me. And when you get to them after, and you say, why did you react like that? And they'll often say, but I was scared. Okay, but how did lashing out? How did that work for you? It doesn't, does it? And often we lash out at God. God, why? Why are you letting me go through this? But that's fine, because God's got big shoulders. Not as big as mine, but big shoulders. And we react in fear, not because God is challenged, but because our idols are being called into question. The idols of success, influence, power, and control. When I was pregnant, it's funny. So me and my mum were at opposite ends of sort of personalities. We were very, very different. Me and my dad were very similar, so I was my daddy's little girl. But when I had Leah, my daughter, the dad wasn't there. Bit of a preview for Saturday. I actually didn't know who the dad was at the time. I do now. So my mum came with me when I gave birth to her. And I remember saying to my mum, Mum, I just can't do this anymore. Now, my mum was one who, she was like, oh, get on with it sort of person, no sympathy. It is what it is, just get on with it. And although she did say that to me just a little bit, she was like, well, there's nothing you can do about it now, I'm afraid. What she did say after that is she'd had 3 children, and she said, every time I've had one of you, when I get to the moment when I can't take it anymore, that's when I want to push and the baby's due to be born. And I've held on to that ever since. That me and my mum going through that together really connected us. And in Psalm 88, verses 13 to 14, it says, but I cry to you for help, Lord. In the morning my prayer comes before you. Why, Lord, do you reject me and hide your face from me? And that's reflected in another very important verse in Mark 15, 33 to 34. At noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And at 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice. Please excuse my pronunciation. Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. Which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? And it seems to me that my mum spoke with great wisdom that day when she said, when you feel you can't cope anymore, that's when things are going to change. Because just when things are at their very worst, I think history shows we're on the precipice of a miracle taking place. And after all, if all things were possible in the earthly sense, how would God ever demonstrate the miraculous? So when we cry out to God about feeling alone and darest I say abandoned, do you know what? He understands. Jesus was on that cross and he felt abandoned. He knows how you feel because he felt it. He doesn't have sympathy because sympathy does nothing for us. What he has got is empathy. And if you've ever watched a person that you love suffer, but suffer for something that you know is for their own good. And I think what comes to mind for me, I had to take Leah as a baby for a blood test. And she was really tiny, so they'd put a little patch on the back of her hand to numb it, because when children have blood tests, they have a butterfly needle in the back of the hand. And when we got into the room for the blood test to be taken, is it a phlebotomist who takes blood? They hadn't got any butterfly needles for children, so they thought they would just use an adult needle on the crook of her arm. But we hadn't got time for the numbing cream to work on the crook of her arm by this point, so I had to hold her down while she screamed while they put this needle in her arm. And I'll never forget her eyes looking at me as if saying, Mom, why are you doing it? But I did it because it was for her own good. So how much, if that's so painful for us, how much more painful is it for God when he watches his children go through these difficult situations? So there's nothing that we suffer that God has not already suffered and doesn't understand. There is nothing that we have done or thought he did not know about. And he knows every doubt we would ever have before we do. And that's why in the Bible, he tells people who work with him and serve him, it is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. casting all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. And this verse out the Psalms is often quite used in a different context, but in Psalm 139:11, he says, if I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. So I just want to encourage you that the beautiful thing about being in a relationship with God is that we don't need to rely on what we are feeling. We don't need to rely on our understanding. And most importantly, we do not need to rely on our own strength. What we can rely upon is what is written in the Bible. What we can rely upon is that God, that restored Peter after he denied Jesus, the God that raised Jesus from the dead, after he had said, God, why have you forsaken me? Is the same God that is here with us today. So if you're feeling alone, remember that Jesus instructed us to seek and you will find. And we're told many, many times in the Psalms, things like the lion may grow weak and hungry, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. Seek the Lord and his strength. Seek his presence continually. And blessed are those who keep his testimonies, who seek him with their whole heart. And I think that's all wrapped up in Proverbs when he says, his heart's desire is for us to persistently and passionately look for him all around us. And when we do, he promises he will be found. So there's no reason for us to feel alone, because if we seek God, we may not be able to feel him, but he is there waiting for us. And I forgot his name, the man who does the Passion Translation, he wrote this, and it's called, I Hear His Whisper. I will be there. I have promised you that I will never leave you comfortless. Is my presence not enough? Every day the glory of my presence overshadows you, even when you do not discern it. When you thirst, I give you living water. When you hunger and crave for more, I give you living bread and my satisfying peace. When you lift up your face to me without shame, the sunshine of my love washes you and strengthens you. My invisible ways of love have carried you through life, so never let disappointment live within you. I am your God, the mighty lover, who will never be turned aside by your weak heart.